Welcome, everybody. Fabulous. Look at all of you folks filing right in. Hi. Hi, everyone. Boy, this is great. I already see so many people I know. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Rubin. I'm going to give this just a minute for people to file into our Zoom meeting before I more formally introduce myself and get us going. This is great. So many folks. Got 50 folks on already, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. All right. Okay, so it's 5:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Sarah Rubin. I'm with the California Department of Conservation. I am here facilitating your meeting this evening, SB 905, carbon dioxide pipelines. We're so glad you could join us. I'm happy to welcome you on behalf of the California Natural Resources Agency, CAL FIRE, the Public Utilities Commission, and the California State Lands Commission. So welcome. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about interpretation services available. Can I have the next slide? Perfect. I'm grateful that we have interpretation services tonight from our interpreters, Lydia and Mark. Lydia, would you like to explain interpretation in Spanish for us?
Yes. Buenas tardes, buenas noches a todos. Ahora vamos a tener esta presentación en inglés y en español. Para cambiar la configuración del idioma, puede activar el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior de Zoom y seleccione el idioma que desee. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks, Lydia. So for those of you who prefer English or more comfortable in English, you want to look for the little globe at the bottom of your screen that says interpretation. And you're going to want to select English. It's likely later when we are doing public comment, some folks will be providing comment in Spanish. And so if you would prefer to listen in English, you will hear the interpreter interpreting from Spanish to English if you're on the English channel. Or if you just stay on the default channel, you would hear both the English and the Spanish as that kind of comment comes in. Okay, next slide. So here we are in the middle of our welcome. We're super grateful you could join today. I'm about to hand things over to my colleague LaQuinn to go over some carbon capture and sequestration basics. We're going to have a review of SB 905 agency requirements. We're going to go over some considerations for a pipeline framework, and then we're going to go right into public comment. We're very eager to hear from you all tonight. Oh, this is great. A bunch of people come in just the last minute. So welcome if you've just come in the last minute. We are just getting started. The one last thing I'll remind all of us of, including me, is to try to think about our cadence because we are having interpretation services happen simultaneously with this meeting. Okay, next slide. Here we are. LaQuinn, let me hand things over to you and you can take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. As Sarah mentioned, my name is LaQuinn Nguyen. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Energy at the California Natural Resources Agency, which I'll also refer to as CNRA. And thank you again, Sarah, for that reminder to speak slowly because I tend to talk fast. So for this first slide, I really just want to start off with just a quick slide talking about carbon capture and sequestration basics, just to make sure that everyone is aware of the topic that we're talking about here. So carbon capture and sequestration is a process by which large amounts of carbon dioxide, also referred to as CO2, are captured, compressed, transported, and sequestered or stored. So when we mention sequestration, that refers to storing the captured carbon, and that could be, injecting that CO2 into geologic formations such as underground reservoirs, or it could be, using that CO2 in industrial materials such as concrete. Not industrial material, but even like making water bottles or jet fuels. Okay, next slide. So last year, Senate Bill 905, that was the bill related to carbon capture and removal that was passed. And while we're here to talk about the CNRA requirements, I wanted to briefly touch at a high level on the other agency requirements under SB 905. So the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, is required to develop and administer the carbon capture, removal, utilization, and storage system, as well as develop a unified permit application process. And then another agency, the California Geological Survey, they're required to establish a geologic carbon sequestration group that will provide expertise and guidance to CARB. And then we get to the CNRA requirements. So there are two main requirements under Senate Bill 905 for CNRA. And on the slide, they're listed based on the date in which they're due to the legislature. But I think it would make more sense if I maybe talk about these out of order. So I'll describe the last bullet on the slide first. So by July 1st, 2025, CNRA must publish a written proposal outlining governing agreements regarding 2 or more tracts of land overlying the same geologic storage reservoir or reservoirs. And this is something that my colleagues at Department of Conservation will be working on with us. And so we hope in the next few months to be able to share more information with you all on this effort. And then really the focus of tonight is the other requirement for CNRA, and that's by February 1st of this year, provide a proposal to the legislature to establish a state framework and standards for the design, operation, siting, and maintenance of interstate pipelines carrying carbon dioxide fluids. So I want to thank my colleagues who are here with us from CAL FIRE, PUC, State Lands Commission, CDFW, Cal EPA, who have all been part of this effort and have really helped engage in conversations on this topic. And I also want to make clear that what we're talking about here, these are not regulations, these are not draft regulations that we're talking about. What we're talking about are issues that we think should be considered in the development of any pipeline regulations. And so now with that, I'll turn to my colleague, Josh Cleaver from CAL FIRE to go over some of those considerations.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Josh Cleaver. I'm a staff attorney with CAL FIRE, working on this pipeline related issue with SB 905. Can we pop over to the next slide, please? So we've previously engaged in some listening and public comment. Some of the folks that have actually attended here tonight have provided some input in previous discussions. And these bullet points are issues that have been raised during those discussions, and those are considerations that our agency, amongst other departments that are involved in this process, are reflecting upon when we are due to deliver that report to the legislature, like LaQuinn mentioned. Some of the topics that have been brought up are defining what CO2 transported by pipeline actually is. CO2 can be transported in different compositions, either liquid, gas. This is focusing on a liquid component of defining what CO2 is and the contents within that liquid. And then we're also talking about potential impact areas in the event of a release. Fracture propagation, which is an engineering issue that may happen when a pipeline fails. There are also considerations that were mentioned of public health. Within public health, we're looking at odorant requirements because CO2 essentially has no odor. Something similar to natural gas, where you may want to add in an odorant that would allow people to detect if there's a leak. And then leak detection is a component of something that would be related to technologies that are maybe located around a CO2 pipeline or within their operations that would help identify if there is a leak of CO2. Some important factors to consider also are emergency response requirements. There are no CO2 pipelines in existence in California to date. So emergency responders would need to be trained up on how to respond to such an issue if one were to arise. And then CO2 contaminants, CO2 transported in liquid phase may contain other products in addition to CO2. Those other products could lead to could dictate how a pipeline is managed safely. So that's another issue that is going to be, that was raised in discussions. Can we get to the next slide, please? This is the last slide in the list of considerations for a pipeline framework that have been raised for us. One is pipe materials. Traditionally, pipe transportation of liquid products, at least in related to hazardous liquid transportation, have been a steel composite pipeline. It may be that pipe materials in the future would dictate different types of products transported through different types of pipeline. So plastic is an option, I believe. And then in addition to that, we were looking at valves. Valves are responsible for restricting flow or allowing flow in a pipeline, and they're also used in safety measures. Potential conversion of existing pipelines. So there are existing networks of pipelines that transport hazardous liquids throughout the state and throughout the country. And not all of them are being utilized for hazardous liquid transportation in the form of like petroleum or crude oil or gas. And there is the potential that an operator may be interested in utilizing an existing pipeline, but converting it to a CO2 pipeline. We've also been asked to, or have been notified that maybe research and development studies for CO2 pipelines is necessary. We also are considering land movement subsidence and seismic activity. Those are factors that we consider in all sort of pipeline transportation issues or pipeline transportation. Corrosion issues, since I mentioned most of the pipelines are in fact steel. Corrosion issues have been flagged because steel can corrode, and all pipelines to date have a approach to mitigating corrosion that is a factor that should be considered in CO2 transportation. And then we've also been informed that enforcement and shutdown authority would be relative to any pipeline operation that ends up in or potentially would be part of a CO2 sequestration project. So those are the items that have been presented to us thus far. And with that, I believe I'll pass it off back to Sarah to take over. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful, Josh. Okay, so for additional information, we hope if you haven't already, you'll consider visiting the resources webpage, Transition to Clean Energy. And for anybody who would like to provide any written comments, you're going to use this email you see right here on the screen, outreach@resources.ca.gov. And with that, we're ready to hear from you all, what we're really looking forward to tonight. Want to go to the, want to pull out our clock? There it is. Here's our how comments will work. Okay, so at the bottom of your screen, there is a little raise your hand function. It's under the reactions button. So the reactions is a little smiley face. If you just click the raise your hand and you're joining by Zoom in a traditional way, we'll see you. We'll see your hand go up. And then for those of you who are joining by phone, what you want to do is you want to push #6. And then that way we will know you are interested in speaking. So we're just setting the clock for 3 minutes. If you end up wanting to, if you have more than 3 minutes you want to share, I'm just going to put you back into the queue so that we can be getting to as many people as quickly as possible tonight. All right, so we've got Ben. Ben, you ready? You hear me, Ben? I think you're unmuted.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, perfect. Your turn.
great.
Go for it.
All right, thank you. Hi, this is Ben Oakley. I'm with the Western States Petroleum Association. We're a nonprofit trade association that represents companies that account for the bulk of petroleum exploration, production, refining, transportation, and marketing in the Western region. We believe that when it comes to getting our energy future right, the stakes have never been higher. We too want a better, cleaner, more inclusive future. And that's why we're here today. As you develop your proposal to the legislature to establish a state framework and standards for the design and operation of carbon pipelines, we hope you take away these two things. First, carbon pipelines are critical to the use of carbon capture and sequestration technologies and meeting our global emission reduction goals. As one of the few technologies able to cost effectively mitigate CO2 and reduce or eliminate emissions from large-scale industrial sources, CCS has the unique capacity to meet our climate goals in a new energy economy. Second, California's current regulatory framework for pipelines already includes the highest standards for the design, construction, and operation of carbon pipelines within the state. This includes the robust regulatory oversight provided by the Office of State Fire Marshal, as well as local land use permitting requirements under the California Environmental Quality Act that would require any environmental impacts associated with the proposed pipelines to be thoroughly evaluated and mitigated. In addition, there are many other state and federal agencies that would provide regulatory oversight depending on a project's specific location, including but not limited to local fire departments, local air pollution control districts, state and federal departments of Fish and Wildlife, state and regional water quality control boards, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, among many others. Because of the critical role of carbon pipelines in meeting our climate goals and the existing comprehensive regulatory framework already in place, California has the unique opportunity to pioneer these technologies with the highest regards to public and environmental health and safety standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I gave the incorrect instructions to the phone people. My apologies. So if you're in by telephone, you're going to push #2 to let us know you'd like to speak. So the next two, I'm going to list off the next two people I have in my queue so you know you're coming. Next, I'm going to Dan R, then Chris H, Jacqueline A, Emmett M, Timothy J, Faraz R, and then Lorelei O. So Dan, you are up. And Harrison, you want to get the video? Dan, you want to start?
Thank you. Hi. Yes, thank you. I was trying to share screen. Thank you.
Let's go.
My name is Dan Rass. I'm a staff attorney for the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. I want to start by sharing a video of a test rupture. The sort of rupture filmed in this test is the sort of problem that we can expect if carbon pipelines are deployed at scale under the current regulatory framework.
This video shows a rupture of a buried, dense-phase carbon dioxide pipeline. The experiment was conducted in the safe environment of the DNVGL Spade Adam Testing and Research Centre to assess the consequences of such ruptures in terms of mass outflow, crater formation and dense gas dispersion. The viewer should note that the extent of the visible plume does not necessarily represent the extent of the dense gas hazard.
I don't want a new version of that video we just watched, shot in the communities where I live and work. I wake up in the middle of the night worried about something like this happening in a population center, like where I live in Delano, where we have at least one proposed carbon capture project. Hundreds of people could die within 20 minutes, as happened from a natural release of carbon dioxide in Cameroon in the 80s, when 1,700 people died at once. The problem is we lack the knowledge necessary to make strong regulations to prevent something like this. Thus, we should not allow carbon pipelines until we know how to regulate them. Now, we may disagree on whether CCUS is a climate dead end. We should be able to agree, though, on whether we should risk mass death events because we proceeded too quickly. My vote is that we shouldn't, and I hope you agree. As such, I beseech you to delay your framework delivery to the legislature, or barring that, at least lead your report with the risks, the unknowns, and the need for further study before deployment of carbon pipelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Chris H. Chris Hannon, can you hear me?
Yes, just getting unmuted. Hello, everybody.
Perfect.
On behalf of the Los Angeles Orange County's Building and Construction Trades Council, we believe that the state of California needs a clear policy to implement CCUS. We need it to meet our carbon reduction goals, our environmental goals. We need it. We can do it safely. We've been given a directive from the federal government to utilize this technology. We know that we have very aggressive climate goals here that are needed here in California. We believe that we need this technology to meet those goals, and we should take advantage of the available funds to help accomplish this. This needs to be done with a skilled workforce to ensure safety, and we believe that we can deliver that workforce. Again, the state of California needs a clear framework on how to utilize carbon capture, how to safely store it or utilize it to meet our carbon reduction goals, our environmental goals, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Jacqueline?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Aguilar, and I am here on behalf of the Central Valley Energy Coalition. We are an alliance of small business owners, nonprofits, chambers of commerce, and the thousands of residents who support a healthy and innovative and sustainable energy industry in California's Central Valley. California has the opportunity to pave the way for innovative carbon capture and storage projects. The Central Valley Energy Coalition supports and advocates for these type of advancements, utilizing groundbreaking technology to meet California's ambitious climate change goals. CCS technology will be an important part of the state's efforts to create a cleaner and healthy environment for the San Joaquin Valley communities. And we are proud to be that voice for this much needed innovation. And we look forward to the many benefits that it will provide the Valley. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Emmett?
Good evening. My name is Emmett McCormick, and I'm speaking on behalf of Current Citizens for Energy and our more than 11,000 members. KCE was founded to support local energy production and all the men and women working in this industry. Current Citizens for Energy represents thousands of Kern County citizens, as well as 5 incorporated cities, 10 chambers of commerce, hundreds of small businesses, and a cross-section of representatives from the healthcare, education, nonprofit, and public safety industries. Carbon capture and sequestration has been globally recognized as a game changer in achieving climate goals, and KCE believes that California has a unique opportunity to be a leader in this emission reduction technology. This technology cannot be the game changer we believe it is without carbon pipelines. California's framework already includes robust requirements related to safety, design, construction, operation and maintenance, and reporting for these pipelines. CCS is crucial to meeting California's ambitious emission goals, and KCE is excited for the future of carbon capture and sequestration projects in the Valley and throughout the state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Timothy?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My name is Timothy Jeffries, International Representative for the Boilermakers. I'm here in the state of California, representing the over 2,000 members between Northern and Southern California. The time. So let's not get behind. California has been a forerunner for climate control issues with our regulations and things of nature and things of that. I would not like to see the work of that goes on in the gas and oil industry done anywhere else other than in California. And I believe that the SB 905 is going to help block some of the federal funding that should be coming to California due to our stance on the pipelines. And CARB's own 2022 scoping plan calls for CCS. So I would say that this SB 905 is not a bill that's going to help support California and keep California moving forward. If anything, is delaying and putting it further and further behind. There are other states now that will be taking the investments that would have been going to California that would go elsewhere if the delay for this is not relieved. There are two projects that the CRC that are put on hold due to this SB 905. So I would like to say that on behalf of my members that work in the gas and oil industry that this is not something we can support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So next we're going to go to Faraz, then Lorelei, Cesar, Paula, and then William.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, go for it.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Faraz Rizvi, pronounced he, him, and I'm here representing the Asian Pacific Environmental Network, APEN, an environmental justice organization that has historically advocated for communities that have lived under the shadow of California's oil refineries. I want to begin my comment by highlighting the shoddy way in which this process has been put together, with very little public notice, over-reliance on CBOs for community and public outreach, and no opportunity for authentic feedback from the communities impacted. This is a deeply regressive process, and I fear continues to leave out the voices of the community members who will be directly impacted the most by this issue. Moving on to the concerns around CO2 pipelines. There have been many comments already about the serious unknowns around CO2 pipelines and the need for serious research on what constitutes, for example, a safe distance, the potential impact on overburdened communities, and further, no federal guidelines on safe CO2 issues regarding environmental justice communities. It does not make sense for California to move ahead on CO2 guidelines without conducting adequate research on the public health impacts and without a real process that includes the environmental justice communities that would be directly impacted by these pipelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorelei, let's see, sorry, there you go. Okay, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, Lorelei. I can't tell if I did the button. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
That's all right. This is Lorelei Oviatt, Kern County, Director of Kern County Planning and Natural Resources. Thank you for the opportunity. First, Kern County is processing, we are processing 3 conditional use permits and environmental impact reports for 3 carbon capture and sequestration projects with over 17 million tons of capacity, none of which are near Delano, just to point that out. We, of course, also are requiring CUPs and EIRs for any CO2 pipelines in Kern County, in the unincorporated areas. And I would like to give our viewpoint on this, which is first, CO2 pipelines do not belong in residential neighborhoods. Pipelines that already exist for natural gas in residential neighborhoods may have been constructed and people may consider them as part of the risk you take for having natural gas in your house. But CO2 will provide no benefit to any of those houses. These standards should not support CO2 pipelines through residential neighborhoods. We should work to keep them as far away from houses as possible. And I believe that it is totally possible to have this new industry and the support of CO2 pipelines that we need for new clean energy industries that can provide jobs and revenue without putting them through residential neighborhoods. I don't believe that we need to delay this, however. And we look forward to especially having training programs for our fire departments and other sorts of tools that will help us all understand these new requirements and safely move these kinds of projects forward. And I appreciate this opportunity, and we look forward to everyone's comments on our environmental impact reports when we start releasing them in the middle of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Cesar. There we go.
Hi, thank you. When companies and conglomerations that represent oil companies and those conglomerations themselves who have actively fought against health and safety buffers and protections, not only for residents, but for their own workers, when they are actively politically fighting against that, yet come here to tout, health and safety and the strictest regulations, it brings me pause. Knowing that the strictest regulations don't mean anything if they cannot be enforced. And being a resident of Kern County, knowing that there is an issue with proper enforcement that leads to things like, multiple leaks inside of neighborhoods. I find it very hard to believe that this is going to be done in a way that is responsible and being done in a way that is going to be able to mitigate any issues that come forward, like an underground plume or any environmental or public health issues that may come up of this. It is, to me, it makes me feel like a type of guinea pig, knowing that being a Central Valley resident means that like over 90% of the proposed CCS projects are coming here. And I would like that to be done in a safe manner, but seeing the type of people that support this, I would like it, for more investigation to be done on this, because there has been incidents that have happened due to lack of proper enforcement. And I would not like for those things to lead to the same types of tragedies that it led to in different communities, even here in the United States.
Thank you. Paula, your turn. Let's see. Oh, sorry. That was my fault. Try again.
Am I unmuted?
Now I hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
now I hear you. Go for
I'm
it.
a volunteer with Fossil Free California, and our organization partners with organizations like the Center for Race, Poverty, and Environment and other groups that are safeguarding our residents. And I'm really concerned about the dangers posed by CO2 pipelines. The Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has some serious questions about the safety of transporting these CO2. It's particularly dangerous, and pipelines can leak when it's transported under pressure or if there are contaminants. And I think California should wait for clear guidelines from PHMCA before we go forward with these projects, and including conversion of existing pipelines to CO2 transmission, which is another thing that's being considered. That needs to be fully studied as well. Thank you.
Thank you. William.
Thank you. My name is Will Chessum. I'm a proud employee of California Resources Corporation. I want to talk a little bit about the CO2 pipelines today. As we've heard already, CO2 pipeline transportation will be a must to enable the CCS, carbon capture and sequestration, to scale to the size needed and described by California Air Resources Board, and also to help the state meet its ambitious decarbonization goals. Transporting CO2 in a pipeline is not a new idea. There's thousands of miles of CO2 pipelines in the US operating today, and they have been for many, many decades. If we wait or delay our CO2 pipeline rulemaking, we'll put California further behind these other states, and it'll also take California out of the running for federal funding that is being targeted for many decarbonization projects. And it'll be an array of different project types as well. This will result in an immediate and long-lasting negative impact to the California economy, and also lost employment opportunities in nearby communities that these projects would support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dean.
Yes, hi there. This is Dean Talley from the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. We represent the full spectrum of manufacturing all over California, small, medium, large. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. We sincerely appreciate the continued commitment to hosting these listening hearings on SB 905, and we continue to engage in these conversations and are committed to ensuring California is the leader in emission reduction technology. CCS has proven to be a significant player in climate change reduction goals, and we support the technology, we support the process. However, prior to this report being submitted on February 1st, 2023, we are requesting an opportunity to review, comment on this report before it's finalized by the legislature. So we respectfully ask for a comment period between 30 and 45 days prior to being submitted to the legislature, so we may continue to be an active voice and share a seat at the table, ensuring California remains at the forefront of emission reduction technology. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Richard. You're up.
Come on. Okay.
You're on.
I'd just like to mention that I I'm speaking for myself here. No one has mentioned the disaster that happened in Cetacea in 2020, where a CO2 pipeline ruptured, a 24-inch pipeline, 9.5 miles between valves, a mile and a half away from a small city, where every single occupant of that city was hospitalized. Some of them with serious illnesses that still occur to this day. Local first responders were completely ill-equipped to handle this. They came in with their normal vehicles. The vehicles died. People trying to escape the thing, their vehicles died too. It's a miracle that nobody was killed. There are currently no computer models that accurately predict the distance it requires to get from the pipeline to sources of locations of population. The Cetacea results show that it should be at least 1.5 miles away from the pipeline, and none of the pipeline companies I am familiar with are allowing anything remotely close to that at the present moment. You've mentioned that there are regulations in place, but in fact, there are no adequate regulations in place. The Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has exclusive right to produce standards for the design, construction, maintenance, operation, and so on of these pipelines, and they do not have standards at all for any pipeline that is not supercritical. And none of these pipelines will be supercritical for any appreciable distance of them. And therefore, you cannot say that they're being designed to proper standards. No state or municipality has the ability to write standards for these pipelines. Because of that lack of standards, we are feeling that there should be continue the moratorium for 2 years, which is the time it's estimated for PHMSA to produce the standards. However, the last time PHMSA had to write standards, it took them 10 years to do it. So we'll see if they can actually get these standards out in time. But in the meantime, there are no design standards for the pipeline companies to use, and therefore they're making up their own standards, and who knows how good they're going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got one more person, Andrew. I'm about to come to you, but I just want to re-mention that if anybody else would like to make any kind of comment, we welcome you to just use the raise your hand function. And I showed just a couple of people on by telephone, but if either of you would like to make a comment, you just want to push #2. So Richard, you're up. I'm sorry, Andrew, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Meredith. I'm the president of the California State Building and Construction Trades Council. We represent about 500,000 workers in the state of California, including over 70,000 state-approved apprentices. Over 70% of those apprentices identify as people of color. If you're a woman working in the construction trades, there's a 90% chance that you came from one of our programs. We also represent over 40,000 members that are always directly engaged in the oil and gas industry. But on the whole, we've always been staunch advocates for renewable energy sources and making sure that we have all the tools in the toolbox to meet California's ambitious climate goals. We believe CCUS is critical to helping California meet those needs, while also keeping some of the manufacturing bases in California open, functioning, and employing people. All of the tools in the toolbox is a very important principle that we believe California must embrace as we deal with climate change. Without pipeline framework that actually makes these pipelines come to reality, CCUS is not realistic in California. Without a clear framework for these pipelines, California's ambitions for CCUS playing a role in decarbonizing our economy is also unrealistic. I did hear some of the people on the call that seem to be insinuating that groups like ours that advocate for a regulatory fix on the pipeline issue are somehow doing a disservice to our members or communities that are dealing with emissions. I want to be very clear. We have always been staunch advocates of renewable energy. We fight to get projects built up and down the state of California, often while being opposed by environmental organizations. We want California to move in the right direction, but California's CCUS ambitions have to be tied to putting pipelines actually into the ground or utilizing stuff that's already in space to move the sequestered carbon. The building trades has also always been a staunch advocate of our landmark Environmental Quality Act in California. We will continue to do that. We hope that the state of California moves quickly to fix the pipeline issue relative to 905. We look forward to being a partner in that process. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if it's Mick or Mike.
Yeah, this is Mikhail Skavarla. I'm here on behalf of the California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance. I want to support our labor members who have testified today and their perspective on this issue. We do believe that it's imperative that California have CCUS as part of its overall portfolio to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045 as codified by the legislature last year, along with the passage of SB 905, the desire to create that framework so that we can move quickly is important. We cannot squander this opportunity that the federal government has presented. It's a once in a lifetime chance for billions of dollars to flow towards California and help us achieve our climate goals. With the economy and state budget in the situation that it is, we need all of those dollars to move towards what is ultimately going to be a New Deal size transformation of our economy. And so to that end, we want to encourage resources and state agencies to continue down this path, establish the appropriate codes and standards so that we can have a safe and developed carbon capture system. Thanks.
Thank you. Virgil.
Hey, good evening. Thank you very much, LaQuinn, Sarah, and Josh, first of all, for hosting the meeting this evening. I'm Virgil Welch with the California Carbon Solutions Coalition. We're a business labor coalition working to ensure that carbon capture technologies are part of California's effort to achieve our climate goals. I would just echo some of the comments that we've heard already tonight from other folks, that the pipeline issue is a critical component of ensuring that we can actually take advantage of the significant contribution that emission reductions can come from CCS technologies. We need a framework for California that is going to ensure that we can transport carbon that is captured and secure and safely store it permanently. And I just wanted to particularly note that there are decades of successful projects globally as well as nationally that have demonstrated that we can in fact do this in a way that is both safe and ensures that we're achieving all of the emission reductions that we need in order to meet our climate goals. And finally, I would say that the timing issue here is quite important because, as was noted previously, there's significant funding federally right now that we are poised in California to take advantage of. And so we do need to move expeditiously here in order to make sure that we can continue to be a leader in taking advantage of the role that CCS can play in California's efforts to meet our climate goals. So again, appreciate you guys holding this this listening session tonight and look forward to continuing to engage with you all going forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Kathy.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yep,
Okay.
you're on.
Hi, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I just heard about this really recently, so just kind of impromptu response. But my name is Kathy Durbin. I'm a retired state public health official. I would like to associate my comments with those from CRPE, APEN, Fossil Free California, and others who are raising the need to put health and safety of Californians and the protections of our health and public health in first as we pursue and try to understand the implications of both the CCUS program and any transfer, conveyance, and pipeline system that might be created to support that. Then I just heard someone say we need to solve the pipeline problem in SB 905, which I thought was curious because SB 905 passed, was signed by the governor, and is in effect as far as I can understand. So I just want to spend the remaining time reading that section in the law. It's section 71465. Pipelines shall only be utilized to transport carbon dioxide to or from a carbon dioxide capture, removal, or sequestration project once the Federal Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, which other speakers have referred to as PHMSA, has concluded the rulemaking regarding minimum federal standards, safety standards for the transport of carbon dioxide by pipeline. So that is in our law. I think we need to honor the statute that the legislature passed and the governor signed, and to take all precautions in mind and follow the lead of the federal agency that actually has the expertise in this area, given that there are no CO2 pipelines today in California. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. So that's, I don't have anybody else who would like to speak. Would anyone else?
Sarah, you got muted.
Thanks, Harrison. I was just, sorry, everyone. We don't have anybody else in the queue. So if there's anybody else who would like to share a thought or comment, this is your moment. Use your raise your hand function, or for those of you on the phone, you can push #2. But look, Quinn, I'm giving you a warning. I'm about to come back to you to give us the thank you and goodbye. Okay, going once, going twice. I don't see any other hands. We encourage you to follow up by email. LaQuinn, you want to say any kind of closing thank you?
Yeah, really appreciate everybody for joining tonight. I know it's after work, and I know other people probably would have other things that they're doing. But again, thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for sharing your comments. Really encourage you all to take another look at the issues that we identified and on those slides, and think about anything else that you think is not covered there that we should also be considering. Really welcome those comments. As Sarah mentioned, please feel free to provide written comments, and please check that website also because we're hoping to have another listening session. We're planning one for next week, and would really like again to have you all participate in it. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.